Okay. Well, welcome, Harry Kroner, if I say that correctly.
Yes,
Yes. It has a bit of a Dutch sound, the name Kroner.
it does. Yes.
Yeah. And well, as you may know, I'm located in the Netherlands. So, and if I would translate it in our language, it would mean like the crown.
That's right.
So,
That's what I mean, it's German. Yeah,
yes,
that's the name
okay.
originally. Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I thought that was quite symbolic for the work that you are doing when I was reading through all the things that you do. But please start with introducing yourself.
Thank you, Patricia. I appreciate that. It is a really a joy to be interviewed by a fellow quantum healer, someone who knows the work and have done the work and published herself. So it's really a joy to be someone with equals. So that's really a joy. Um, yeah, my name is Harry Kroner. I've been doing this work for a long time, for close to 20 years, and started really with this part, like doing more spiritual work. I've been drawn to that, doing past life regression. For that's how I started, and connecting with spirit guides, and slowly with my work, and as I was getting more education, I was getting my master's in psychology and all the different things. I was like, okay, people need a lot more help with in order to really progress to those next levels. And in a 2012 or 2013, I can't remember by now, I got trained with Dolores Cannon with the quantum healing hypnosis technique. And I was like, wow, this is really great work. And a lot of the feedback I was receiving from those sessions were that people need to let go of fear, let go of all those blocks and trauma and things that hold them back. And I was like, okay, so this is what we need to work on. And I start to retrace myself back to what people need to do in order to let go of this fear-based mentality and of to really progress and evolve in their next level of their personal evolution as a being. So, and I notice a lot of people can get those glimpses into those higher realms, but eventually they go back to if they don't get that help in clearing those things. They just revert back, or they stay in the fear mode, or they don't take that big step in their life because they're still holding on to all those baggage from this lifetimes, from other lifetimes. So yeah, that's so I've been working in all those areas, basically emotional, mental, and spiritual healing, and progression and expansion. And obviously, in the last few years, I've been mostly focused on helping people evolve into their greater being, what I like to call the higher self, and that's really the focus is on now. And I do a lot of retreats and workshops and one-on-ones, and the biggest thing that happens to me lately in the past year is I've been started to train people in my modality. So I call it quantum healing methods, and I train all of the comprehensive kind of training program of 12 weeks. And actually, I'm in the process of doing one right now. So this is really exciting. Yeah. So that's my latest kind of, you can say, a writing project, because I'm writing a lot of scripts. I'm writing a lot of basically classes of how to teach things, how to bring it forward, how to help others have these kind of fascinating experiences to other people. So it's great joy to do this work.
So you've created your own modality, and you call it quantum healing method?
Yes.
Okay.
Quantum healing methods. Yeah.
And I read that you have your own institute. What is it called?
Oh, well, I do. I opened the academy, Infinite Ascension Academy, as a response to the need for people to. I like to work one-on-ones. I think it's the best, most empowering thing to work one-on-one. But I noticed the need for people to get some mass amounts of just workshops of how to connect with your spirit guides, how to get you into a healing chamber in a spaceship, and also connecting with your inner child, and doing so all this work that I do, and start doing some of it in just in the form of a workshop for people in general they can take. They don't have to do a one-on-one with me. So I started the academy with that in mind, and yeah, it's going pretty well. It's going pretty well. I get people who some of the things are getting more popular and been selling them by the hundreds, and some things are a little more modest yet. So it's fairly new, but I really enjoy doing that, and again, having the ability to help and reach as many people as possible.
That sounds amazing, and it must be such a big advantage that you have been trained in psychology. And
yeah.
So do I understand it correctly that you started with past life regression and then you studied psychology?
Yes, I kind of went backwards. I started doing this, and when I started doing the work, I realized, wow, a lot of it is about emotional healing, about healing trauma from past lives. So I wanted to learn more.
Yeah.
I wanted to learn more and understand more how I can help people better,
Yeah.
and started doing that in that way. So
Wow.
worked backwards.
Yeah. So does it mean that you only work as a quantum healer using psychology, or do you
Right.
also? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Mostly. I mean, I do. People have come to me again, especially after writing the book, Freedom from Anxiety. People come to me with anxiety and other, you could say, more common issues, more 3D issues. But it's usually quickly evolves into more, again, taking care of those things and more into the spiritual realms. So that helps them. So it really doesn't matter how people come and find out about this work. It's what matters that they get pulled into it in some way and start working on themselves.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you wrote a book about anxiety, haven't you?
Right. So that was a while ago. I wrote this 7 years ago, and it had been published 6 years ago. The idea was the freedom from anxiety. What I wrote about is, again, what we just talked about is I noticed people cannot really evolve further or progress into their next level of fifth dimensional living, or anything that you want to call it, without truly taking care of all the things that hold them back.
Yeah.
And one of the things that are still kind of holding people back these days is the fear-based mentality. The fear of something is no. Basically, it's about being powerless and being disconnected from the higher self, from your greater being, from who you really are as a spirit, soul, consciousness, however you want to call it. So that disconnection causes the feeling of smallness, feeling vulnerable, powerless. So, and moving from those aspects of feeling small, powerless, and having no control in life, and letting go of that mindset and the victim mentality, and going into your power and moving into that space. So when I wrote this book, I wanted to select, okay, what really give, again, even like a general people who are just waking up and don't have the vocabulary of higher self or past lives, that are not really familiar with it, or just a little bit, and how can I approach those people and help them just move to their next level? And if they're ready for more spiritual work, beautiful. That's my favorite ones. But if they're not, and if they just want to really take care of just themselves and just be a better version of self, a higher vibration self, that's good too, because the whole point is obviously to allow humanity to hold the highest vibration. And if we hold on to fear, the vibration is low. Fear, anger, resentment. So let go of all these so you can hold a higher vibration. So everyone can do their share in doing that. That's the goal.
What would you advise people who are dealing with fear? How can they raise their vibration?
It's important to really work with someone who can help them release that and help them. And I do have some exercises in the book, and you can get it physical book or on Amazon. And really, but it's really about working with yourself and working on, like, why am I holding to this fear? What is it? What is behind it? And sometimes it's something that's pretty obvious, something from your life, some experiences that have caused it to be the root cause of the issue, and addressing it in a way that is in a loving way. And I know that's a lot of stuff that people want to, the natural tendency we have is to avoid pain, avoid unpleasantness, avoid unpleasant emotions. So people try to push it away somehow. And it's really important to address those emotions and see and reach them out with love and curiosity. And like, okay, why am I feeling this? Why is it coming up? What's the trigger here? Why is there a trigger there? What is it trying to teach me? And what's the lesson behind it? The same thing as we do in the work of the quantum healing. What's the lesson? So addressing the emotion on the emotion level as well, in that same attitude and same approach, will help people to really, okay, I can understand now. And by understanding and learning the wisdom, you release that from yourself, and you are a lot less prone to be triggered. And the idea is to be less triggered and have none of those triggers, first of all, and those belief systems that are based in fear about yourself, about the world, that the world is unsafe in some way, that people are this and that, or that I don't have a place in the world, that I'm not good enough, all those things that hold you back.
Yeah.
So it's really about doing that and working on that. No, these days it's called more shadow work. No, to address those parts that are more we don't want to show up to the world, or that we kind of try to hide, and do that inner work. And a lot of times we do need that extra external help, because it's hard for us to see ourselves.
Yeah.
And when I think it's best, and as you know, it's always fun to work with other people and have them, even quantum healers, we do a lot of this work. We know a lot, we learn a lot from our clients, but we have to do our work ourselves and work with our colleagues and work with stuff to clear and heal ourselves. So that's the message. First of all, help yourself as much as you can and get external help, because that's usually those biggest blind spots that we all have are there, and we need to be let some light shine on them, and so they can be healed, cleared, and then you can move on to those expansive work of the connecting with other beings and your higher self.
So does that mean that you pay a lot of attention to working on that in the pre-talk before you actually start the session?
Well, I like to take a different approach. I like to work with several sessions, not just one session, because I think one session gives a big opening and clarity and understanding, and then what? How do people implement it into their life? Because a lot of times, okay, I'll give you an example. Okay, you need to let go of this relationship, now, for example. And then like, okay, yeah, I need to do that. And then they go back to their life and they're like, ooh, that's hard. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to approach it. So it helps in like, okay, so let's have a few sessions. Like, oh, let's talk about this. What is it you really need? How can you implement it? How can you bring it to life? What is holding you back? What is the fear that's holding you back from letting go of this relationship? So having several sessions to help the person go through that process of letting go of things, a process of ascension itself, because it also inside of that process of ascension, it has also levels, and there's awakenings, and people are like, whoa, they're in a high and they're in this a certain elation, and then like it eventually fades away, and then like going to this depression because the things didn't work out, or things that don't happen quickly enough, because we are all impatient. We just want things to happen now. So it's helping people through that journey, through a journey of the self-mastery of their own human self, and through that process of ascension. So I like to separate like to self-mastery as a human being, and in the YY study, I clearly kind of create that separation. So self-mastery as a human being, the emotional person, the mental abilities, the mental habits, the patterns of thinking, and then taking care of the more spiritual aspects, the past lives, the higher self, and then I take it to the next level of the galactic self, of connecting with, learning who you really are as a galactic being, and connecting with all that part. Wonderful. As a starseed. Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. So people can start wherever they are, wherever they are. So this is why I wrote the Freedom Anxiety Talk. Start wherever you are. Because people come for you with a certain pain. Yeah. And that pain is either spiritual pain or emotional pain. And then you start, first of all, taking care of that pain. And then, okay, let's take care of the rest of you.
Exactly. Yeah.
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 So that's my approach.
I feel that when people come with a certain question, there's often a different question beneath it.
Oh, yes.
And which always appears to be much more important. So I can imagine that working the way that you do really addresses all those different aspects,
right?
Different parts. And so how do you connect people with their galactic self? Do you use quantum healing like we know it from the QHHT or beyond quantum healing, or do you have a different approach?
Well, I have my own script. So by now, because I've been doing, to be honest, I've been helping by now with like thousands of people. So I have my own cumulative experience and know what works, what's effective tools. But it is in general that path of clearing some of that, similar to other quantum healing methods of getting into a safe space, raising your vibration, going into, I like to go to like a light temple in space, and then it's doing some of that work, and then connecting with beings and getting some guidance information, and also whatever it is, spirit guides or other beings that have your highest good, and then start to connect, understanding, okay, where am I from? What am I doing? What is this about? What's my mission and purpose? And then helping people connect with that stuff. But when they're ready, it's important to either it happens spontaneously, suddenly they have this beautiful being that is approaching them. It's like, hey, we're family. That's it.
Beautiful, isn't it?
So yes, exactly. So you know the work. It's just a lot of times happens spontaneously. A lot of times they want to have like, hey, I had a glimpse, I had an experience, I want to explore it further, and then I bring them to that place in which they can a safe place in which they can explore it, either in a I like to kind of a temple in a light temple in space. That's my favorite method.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
And I think many people come with this question or this feeling that they mention of longing to go home or to connect with home, and they have no idea what home is, but they have this feeling like, okay, I can't grasp it, but it must be
That's
there.
right.
And I
yes,
think,
I remember like when I first experienced it, and that's where so powerful for me.
Yeah.
And I love it when I see other people experience the same thing in the field, and all the tears, the joy, that longing, that everything that was holding on for so many, all the lifetimes of feeling alone, feeling separated from the family. And I just love to bring that, allow people to experience it themselves when they connect with their galactic family and their origin. And it's just such a joy to witness that for others as well.
It is, isn't it? I always feel humble that you have the opportunity to be there and be part of it, and to witness that, how they meet their starseed family again. It's really,
it's astonishing, isn't it? I know, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful, especially when they're like, wow, we're in some purple planet and we're like doing this, and like, yes. Go for it. Yeah. Enjoy, like do connect. And it's just beautiful to see that. Yes. It's a very humbling experience to be part of. I enjoy that.
And I always find it fascinating that when we work with quantum healing, we work on a soul level, as I see it, but there's also the psychological level. And I feel that people always respond to the world that they live in. So I'm always curious to see, what does their inner fear reflect of their outer world, and how is the outer world influencing their fears? And especially the last few years, of course, when we have this sort of a collective fear going on. I find this very fascinating. And do you see any of that in your sessions or your clients?
Yeah, it's again, it's kind of, as you said, it's very interesting to me as far as our human evolution and progression. That this suddenly fear came up with the pandemic and all that kind of stuff on both sides of the you could say the situation. Those who fear getting sick and getting in the fear of death and fear of illness, and on the other side, the fear of loss of freedom, and the fear of feeling a loss of control of their life and powerlessness, and so both sides experience like an enormous amount of fear, again, to some extremes and some low levels, and realize I'm making sure that people know that this is holding on to the fear, no matter from what side you come from, is not healthy for you, because you just holding to the vibration of fear holds you back and holds you in a small version of yourself that is just fearful, survival based. Like, I can't allow to I don't want to go outside from one end, and on the other side, like, oh my God, they're going to take my freedom away. It's like, wow, it's just two really, really big extremes of no, it's you're still, even if you think that you are doing what's best, that you're still holding on to fear. And that's just letting go of that. And it's like, okay, what am I afraid of? Again, doing that process within themselves. And like, I don't need to hold on to the fear part of that. No matter what your opinion is, It's just let go of the fear based of it, because it's holding you back. And I see that so much on social media, again, on both sides. People hold so much fear, and they even think, and I'm so saddened, to be honest. That's in the beginning, I was really disturbed by it, like how the entire kind of spiritual community, the New Age community, the quantum healing community, all being completely riddled with fear. And it's just such a shame, and people don't see that it actually holds them back from their own evolution further. And it's I hope people should listen to this and examine within themselves, look, what am I holding on to? What am I afraid of? And can I let go of that? Because it's really not about the fear of what's holding us back outside of us. It's knowing that I am internally free. Exactly. That as a being, as if you really are connected with your higher self, you notice that there really is nothing to fear. You are an internal being. Nothing that happens to you on this realm is a reason to be afraid of. And I like to take that example of, like, Nelson Mandela, who was in prison for 27 years and still held that mental and emotional and spiritual freedom. Like, I am not held up. I'm physically in prison, but I am not imprisoned. So I am free inside. So holding on, no matter what happens outside of you, being in, I call it the eye of the storm. There's a whole mess around us, but let go and allow yourself to be in the eye of the storm, that peace and quiet, your own peace and quiet. And things happen around you. Yes, you need to respond to it, but not responding out of fear, but responding out of love. Love to yourself, love to the world, love to those around you, and empathy to everyone and to whatever they're feeling. And that's okay. But what I really don't like is the alienation. Oh, they are doing this, they are doing that. Wow, it really, really bothered me. Like, we're actually doing exactly what we're not supposed to be doing. It's alienating each other, hating each other. It's just a wrong attitude. And it's just a shame that people don't see that. Yeah. So that's my, and so holding on to your connection. I think that's the biggest thing, and your own connection with your higher self, with your own being, and being at peace with that, and knowing, again, being, I like to call it, I create this kind of middle level that's easier to achieve. I call it the greater self. It's just between us and the really higher self, which I call the greater being. There's not just a greater self, which is kind of the first step of expansion, of our expansion in our space. And I like to take people there really early so they can notice, how does it feel to be expanded, to be in that space of like, I feel connected to the universe. I feel at peace. And it's just really easy to get there. It doesn't take a long time to get to. And people get comfortable and feel that I am back into my power. I am back into my calm self, that kind of peaceful warrior state. Been there, done that, and now I'm at peace. So going to that state of just slight openness, and really and then you remember, like, oh yeah, all that stuff, all that small little rat race is nothing that I need to hold on to. It's all temporary.
Exactly. Yeah.
So.
And it almost sounds as if I think it's really beautiful how you approach this, because it shows that being connected with something bigger is what is keeping you healthy and free, isn't it? Is that what
absolutely?
Yeah,
absolutely. And that's the key. And you know that as well. It's like it's what keeps us aligned with our everything that we are, our purpose, our mission, our sanity, really.
Yeah.
And gaining perspective on everything we do, every walk of life, every part of the day. If we're connected, if we stay aligned and connected, we're just going to approach it with a different attitude.
Exactly. Yeah. Wonderful. And are you working on other books, or have you written any other books?
Well, I did write. So that was the Freedom from Anxiety. That was the big one that I wrote. And I also did just a chapter in this one, The Change, which is a collection of writers. And I wrote that also I published about 7 years ago. I was on a streak back then. And that I wrote a more quantum healing story. I have only one chapter in that book. And a quantum healing story about a woman who went through the process. So she came to me with, I just started quantum healing just a year or two before that. So it was perfect. That my abilities to help her improved significantly. And she came from, to me with that. No, she was very spiritual. She knew she can solve it in a spiritual way. And she came to me with that her doctors told her that no, she is completely like her hormonal, her estrogen is the level of a 90-year-old, and she cannot have any children. She cannot have anything. And she was 32, and completely shut off her all her menstrual cycles. And again, it's a young woman. And she had the intuition, and she's very good at that. That she can solve it in other ways. And it was interesting. So we went through a quantum healing session, and we connected, and we understood, we saw some past lives in which she lost a baby. And she said, like, she vowed to not have any more children. And then she understood that she right now finally reached a point in this lifetime. In many lifetimes, she didn't have any children because of that. And she realized, and she reached a point in this lifetime where she was with someone that she's like, I want to have children with them. And that fear shut her down. So it was interesting. So after the first session, everything went back to normal. Wow. And that was all her functioning. And the doctor said, like, this is weird. We don't know what's happening. So that was interesting. But then it shut down again. So then we started doing more work around it, and we connected with the spirit of the child that is going to be born her, and we really worked on all her fears and all her clearing more of that, and then it returned again, and she was able to have a child, and now he's like 5-6 years old.
Amazing. It's so beautiful.
It is, and it was so, as you said, humbling when we were able to speak to the unborn child. That he was like, he was waiting. I want you to be my mother, and it was so touching, so amazing. So I tell that story of her in the quantum healing story, which is amazing.
So profound.
Yeah.
And also a perfect example how fear influences our physical body.
Yes.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Also,
yes.
If you really are able to approach that and to clear that, almost easy to change it, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So that was a beautiful story, and I wanted to share it. And so that I wrote in the back. But right now, I am, to be honest, writing the manual for my students. So I've already wrote it once, and I'm for my first batch of students in the spring, and now with this, I'm expanding it a little further. So it's going to be kind of a manual for the quantum healing methods, and it's kind of like more of kind of a guidebook that goes along with the training, but that's what I'm working on right now. But I haven't worked on telling stories much. And I know you wrote a beautiful book about that and telling stories. And I don't know why I'm more of a teacher. I want to teach about things. I want to teach methods. And even my clients, I want to teach them how to take care of how to help themselves. And that's part of my modality, is to teach the clients. So here's tools. Here's more tools how to handle your emotions. Here's more tools. I like to do that. That's kind of my inclination. And so I like to do that, to teach methods, to teach. This is what I wrote, the freedom of anxiety. It's a lot of ideas of how to take care of, how to think differently. Exactly. So that's my inclination. So if I write something else, it'll be in that realm. But I do love stories, and I think stories, people connect to stories, and it is important to share that as well.
Yeah, but you're really good at writing. Exactly, almost like a teacher, because I read Freedom from Anxiety, and it's so clear. You offered it like a clear program. It's really easy to read, and I think it has deep information and yet easy to understand. So
good.
Yeah,
thank you.
I can really imagine that you would be great in writing more of these books.
Yeah. Well, I can share to you that a lot of it, like a lot of the material itself was channeled. I mean, I was doing automatic writing. So a lot of the material, I had to put it together in a certain way, but in a more conscious mind. But a lot of it, they were like, okay, guides, what are we going to share with what needs to be written today about this and this? So the way they just dictated, a lot of it is dictated. Yeah. So there's that simplicity in how they write. And I love that is beautiful. And and that's a lot of part of how I stay connected. I do automatic writing. I try to do it every day. It doesn't work every day, but but trying to be like, okay, how should I approach today? What needs to happen today? What are we talking about? What to share? And then again, right now I write it for my students. So what do the students to know about this topic? What is it? What are the inner concept, the really fifth dimensional and higher dimensional aspects of the work that needs to be reflected in this? So, for example, I wrote about how to connect with the greater being, higher self part, and they took an approach that I didn't even think about before so much. I knew it intuitively because it's all about how it feels energetically. Because it's not about letting the higher self come into you. It's more about merging with the higher self, raising your vibration enough and allowing that merge to take place. So that a lot of my problem that I encounter is people saying like, oh, how does it feel when it comes to you, when it goes into you? I'm like, no, it's a merge. It needs to be, comes from both directions. So they showed it to me. First of all, I had to experience it myself. It was actually kind of cool how I opened myself up and how that top portal opens up and allow the higher self to come in and the merge takes place. And once I've done it myself several times, I'm like, yes, that's how it happens. And that element of the energetic opening and the raising of frequency was shown to me, and like, wow, this is a really easy way to explain and let people understand and experience it and have a higher effectiveness into the tool of doing that and helping people connect. So that's beautiful.
It's really amazing. And you mentioned that you distinguish the higher self and the higher being. Could you explain that?
It's just terminology. And this is a lot of my guidance, how it comes through. What my guides, and I work with, they just call themselves the Council of Masters that are kind of work with me, just my light council, with my kind of the modality that I've developed. So there's all people in that council of beings that have achieved ascension and all the human mastery of self-mastery. So they've gathered and they help me do that and deliver it to people. I'm just the conduit. And so they mentioned that the higher self, the word itself is misleading because it's not higher. It is not something that is above you. And then it's something that causes people to misunderstand it. It is so it's just semantics, but I guess it's crucial semantics. So if we call it the greater being, it's just greater. It's just more perspective, which is really what it is. It's an expansive state of consciousness. So allowing it to be described by that. So it's a greater aspect of yourself. It's more and more of who you are. But it's not higher, it's not above you. And again, this is a problem. People think, oh, I need to go to that because it's a higher level. No, because that's the ego wants to talk. The ego wants that, or I want to be, I'm sure you encounter that, like so people who really, 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 really want to be, like, there's a little problem there. So it's that semantics that people will understand the concept. So there's nothing higher than you. It is all you. And so it's just greater and greater aspects, greater and greater understandings or perspectives and expansive states and levels of consciousness. But again, even that, it's like calling dimensions. And they don't like to call dimensions so much. They're like densities. I'm sure you encountered that before. Density, because it really is more of a spectrum. It's not like poof, you're in 5D, poof, you're in 6D. It's not like that. It's not like it's like anything with light. It's a spectrum. So it's you go in through specific vibrations, and some of them belong to a more clearly what we consider fifth or sixth dimension. That's but it's a range, and so they like to let go of those concepts again. So it's misconceptions that have been created earlier on, and that they're trying to let go of around those topics.
And I guess it also reflects that what I've experienced when you are communicating with beings who are in this ascended state, it goes beyond words, and words are always limiting.
That's right.
The meaning, and we need that on a human level, of course, but it's also kind of limiting the meaning of it all. So But
Right.
I think how you describe it is really beautiful. It's about this expanded experience of yourself. Yeah,
Yeah.
really beautiful. Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah,
So yeah. So it's also a matter of what we need to educate people and again reframe things. And I think it's a process of refinement of our field, of the quantum healing field, as it is like I think the most advanced way of healing that right now on the spiritual level. When we need to continuously work on refining our words, our understanding, our modality, our and it is and it's so we can truly deliver the best and into the world.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned that you're almost sitting in front of this sort of a portal. How do you see that? Like when people are moving through different worlds during a session, or well, maybe you could call it densities. I always see this as if they're going through this portal. How do you see that?
Well, I see it as the same thing. I actually sometimes see it because no, your psychic abilities do develop further and further as you do this work. So I actually see them moving through the expansive statements. You can see them how they move and suddenly move through portals, move through thresholds, if you want to say however it is. And there's all that stuff that takes place.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I actually see them as light silhouettes that just go through different aspects of through different experiences. So did I answer your question?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. And how do you see it? How do you see it when you have people experience it?
I feel it, and I'm not sure if I always see it, but I can feel as if the energy is changing, as if they're moving through something. I always feel that when we are in this session, we are in this quantum field together, and I pick up where the client is going. So sometimes I pick up the images, but it's usually a feeling that you're, moving.
Yeah, you energetically sense suddenly like, ooh, suddenly they feel more expanded. Suddenly they feel more. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And I just with my students, I just cover that today because we just not today, like this last class, because we did just do a teach about how to connect with the greater being, and it was, and I was just talking about, and they sensed in each other, like suddenly there's a lot more telepathy because like suddenly what you say they already thought about and that kind of stuff, because we are suddenly opening this quantum field together and it's spending time together in this space, and it's so much more suddenly starts to happen, and like, oh, I just saw exactly before you just said that, I already saw it, or that kind of stuff happens a lot. I love that. It's even as practitioners, because we need to manage the experience. I mean, to be a little bit here, but we're still also a little bit there as well, and have that joint experience, and it's just lovely.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like having this split consciousness, isn't it? Like a part of you is really observing and in control of, okay, is everything going right? And the other part is going into that energy field.
Exactly.
I guess
and tapping into it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And as I was, sometimes I do it, and I notice people sometimes, or they're not, they have a hard time, or they're suddenly stuck in some fear or some concern. I was like, okay, come on, tell me what they need to do. Like, so until I asked my guides and wherever the higher beings that are in that space, and okay, show me what they need to experience, what do they need to know, what we need to take care of it so they can clear out. So it's a really becomes a really fluid and dynamic experience.
Yeah, exactly. And what would you do if a client would enter a scene or an experience that's really frightening? How do you deal with that in such a moment? Because I know that many clients are afraid to go into a session because they fear what they will see or experience. How do you deal with that?
Well, it's all about in the pre-talk and telling them, hey, you can always be the observer. You don't have to be fully immersed in the emotion or what's taking place, and they can be more. And I always like to give that as a joke, the example, which was a real example. As like, you can come to the observer and they're like, oh, they're chopping my head off. It's funny, but it actually happens. Like a person was like, "Oh, they're cutting my head off," and that's it. And it was no attachment to it. And so they're like, and that usually relaxes them. Like, okay, I can do this.
Exactly.
So it's I like to use a little humor sometimes, but it is about that. It is about like understanding that it's nothing is going to be fatal or traumatizing. The idea is just to clear that, heal, grow, and expand. That's the whole point. And I tell them, you definitely will experience some of that today.
Yeah.
Healing, growth, and expansion. That's it. So don't worry about it. The other parts are just easy to take care of.
Yeah. And how do you see it? Sometimes I feel that clients, when they're in this higher state, they can find answers that are so beautiful and so etherical. But once they're back into the 3D life, they seem to forget, or they seem that it doesn't match with their reality. What do you advise people, or do you address that during the session? How do you deal with that?
I like to address it in the post talk, like after the session is completed. It's like, hey, what you received is real, and this is what your higher self was telling you that is the best for you. You're in your highest good. Yeah. So do listen to it. And this is why I do like in my own way of working is to have follow-up sessions. It could be just 1 hour sessions. It doesn't have to be big and long, but just 1 hour sessions to continue and address those issues. Okay, so how do I integrate it into my life? How can I take this and in the most graceful and to the highest good of all? Yeah. And do that work. I think it's really important, not just to leave our clients hanging and go ahead, figure it out for yourself. Yeah. Bye-bye. Have fun storming the castle kind of thing. Yeah. So it's like, no, to help them through their journey of going through, again, probably one of the most difficult things in their lives, to either let go of a job, let go of a relationship, let go of things that it's hard. It's not easy. So you want to be that support system and help them in that journey in that way. So I think that works really well in being that, because there's more things that come up, as you said, like when you get rid of the biggest noise, like, oh, I really need to take care of this stuff, but there's other little things that also need to be taken care of. So again, I take the approach of let's work together for a period of time, a few sessions, a couple of months at least to start with, and then we can see what happens from that point on. If you need more of a help or you're good, and just need a maintenance every once in a while. Exactly. So but I do like to help them through that journey of going through it.
Yeah. Wonderful. You know what I was just thinking when I think about all those quantum healers who have written these wonderful books. Wouldn't it be great if we could write a book together, like if one of us
that's cool.
write a chapter? Well, maybe we
should
talk about
yes, because it's the same as this book. It's a collection of authors. Everyone just wrote a chapter, and it's a good way for people who are, it's like, oh, I think I have enough material for a whole book, like yourself, and I just wanted to write about this one beautiful experience, and we can write a collection. Yes, a collection of quantum stories.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, we'll keep that in mind.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
To be followed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Very cool.
Let me see, because I've written down a few things that I wanted to know from you, and I think we've talked about them all. Yeah, I think we did. Is there anything else that you would like to share with people who are listening right now?
It's about, again, I want to go back to the basics of, you got to let go of those things that are holding you back, and notice within yourself, be curious, approach yourself with curiosity, and like, what am I holding on to? And start taking care of those things. And if you feel that it's something that's elusive to you, go get some help from others. And that'll be a perfect first step.
Yeah, exactly.
In your own process. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's about letting go and having some sense of humor when looking at yourself. When I hear you, you do have that sense of humor. I think it's really great in terms of become detached of things and step out of the drama.
Exactly. And it's and it really, and again, the most important is stay connected.
Yeah.
and really try to do whatever you can to stay connected and not turn into also be a source of fear and concern, but okay, how do I connect with my higher self? And if you don't know how to, reach out to one of us and connect and learn how to connect and how to be aligned with your truth and purpose. Because once you start doing that and connect and feel more belonging to your star family, to your own self, or to a certain community, life is just that much more easier to handle.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah,
Beautiful. Yeah.
very
And
good.
could you mention your website one more time so people know
Oh yeah.
where to find you?
Yeah, so it's harrykroner.com, and we can probably put it in the comments, harrykroner.com, and also Infinite Ascension Academy if you want to go into those workshops. But you have the link in my regular website as well. So harrykroner.com.
Great. So people know where to find you and your
Yeah.
book. So,
Yeah.
well, thank you so much for being my guest today. It was lovely talking
Thank
with
you. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Okay, bye-bye.